Yeah.
Yeah, if you're just wondering.
We're going to call a meeting to order here, pretty much on time, 7:32. I welcome everybody back. Happy New Year, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the break. I'll ask for a motion for the adoption of tonight's agenda. So motion, seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Also, can I get a motion for the approval of the meeting minutes, which are up on YouTube? This meeting is again being live streamed to YouTube, where our meeting minutes can now be found. Motion? Motion? Seconded? Second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. So for tonight, we're starting with new business. I believe that there was a handout for you to gather on this diversity certificate program from the Office of Associate Chancellor for Diversity. And I thought we would put this on our new business for the consideration of whether or not GPSC as a group would try to schedule a training whereby we could participate in this program and have a scheduled time where a group of us from GPSC would go and participate in this training.
Sure, and I'll actually jump in and kind of talk. I met with individuals who organized this, and so if you go to the back or if you're interested, the upcoming dates, the first two on this handout are not available, so it starts in February with the dates of being on February 5th or February 14th. And so what this is, it's an hour and 30 minutes in session in person to kind of just prepare yourself for those conversations and dialogue and diversity. And so, it's something that you can incorporate into the workplace, or also with your students and in the classroom. It also then includes a 15-minute online segment. At the end of it, you will receive a on-campus certification that says that you had participated in the class. And so, it's just really one of those to kind of hone in on some of the different dialogues and discussions when it comes to diversity, privilege, and power, especially in this political climate that we have in the classroom. How do you manage those with differing opinions while still respecting those from minority groups and still understanding hate speech versus freedom of speech and all those different types of array of things when it comes to diversity. And so this also we'll talk about this later, but this is just the first of these certificates. They will also have a second certificate you can get, and it's an advocate certificate. So this is one of those, how do you become a greater ally and advocate? And this would be the second certificate you can get within this program. The dates for that would be later in March and April. But this diversity one too is not limited to this. So if you can't make it with the group on the date you decide, you can also sign up individually and just go on your own. So you don't necessarily have to go in the GPSC. So this is open to everyone on campus, beyond graduate students, faculty, staff, administrators, and students. Both undergrad and graduate students are welcome to attend any of these open sessions. The minimum to have a successful session, though, is 6 people. And so if you'd like to have a group of 6 representing GPSC, that would be fantastic.
And so the question for us with business is whether or not we would want to pass a motion for us to work with those organizing these trainings to schedule one that would be a group training for members of the Graduate Professional Student Council. And I imagine then in addition to that, that schedule meeting for us as a group specifically, we would also be able to potentially accommodate others that wanted to be a part of it. It essentially creates an additional scheduled time potentially for others to participate in this, like the 144 is canceled, right? So we create potentially another opportunity for others to participate, something we can do collectively as a group. We can potentially reach out to undergraduate student government and their groups on campus to participate in that as well.
And I think that they would actually, for us, if we did have a group that we put together, they might also just like create a separate date that is more in tune with what we can do as far as the meeting time. But if you're just curious, want to know more, handouts are in the back. I'll also be sending out an electronic version. So that way, if you want to also let those people in your department know about this, if there might be something that might be interesting to them or to any of the RSOs that you might associate with, feel free to spread the word. So as of now, as the motion, how many of you would be interested in just participating in an individual GPSC event? Okay, so that meets the minimum. What we could do then is we will send out an email and just with the general information and just respond back. Once we have a list of those who are interested in being a part of this GPSC focused meeting, we will then finalize the time that works best for everyone to see if they can be with us at that time. And then I'll still have that information out for everybody who just wants to attend on their own report. Sounds good.
Cool. Any questions, concerns, further discussion on that?
I actually have a question.
Absolutely.
Like, you're the organization, do you like maybe ask if they would be willing to like schedule that towards the afternoon or evening?
I know that because then once you are running this, I know that there's students and I think they're still in coursework, so I'll see what their schedule is for their evening classes. But I think they're available in the afternoon, but maybe not in the later evening. But I don't think we all want to meet necessarily in the late evening if we don't have to. So yeah, I think that's a great question. I think the afternoons work best for most. All right.
Saying nothing further, we'll move on to the other bit of new business from our fee activity board. We have any proposals? I didn't have any when I printed it out.
Yes, we did meet with, we had a proposal that actually was presented to us in the fall. The event wasn't until the spring, and so we reviewed it, and that is for the International Students Food and Cultural Festival. That happens at this time. We would like to contribute to them what we provided last year. Last year we gave them $1,500 for the event, and we'd like to just match that this year and give them another $1,500 to go towards the event. I know that we're ready to promote it on the posters, and so if you haven't been, I'll have also some information and I'll spread that out also via email. It's a great event. It happens during the day. I believe it's early February, like the first. It's like next week, I want to say. And what they do is downstairs in the student center, they have all different types of international food. And so you can go by and have little samples and a taste of different flavors from all over the world. And so it's something that they take a lot of pride in, and it's something that they have done annually. They're having coupons, and that you can buy food tickets and whatnot. But it's a nice variety of food. So if you come hungry, you will be satisfied by something. And then in addition to that, before I move forward, settle on this one. So I propose that we can provide the International Student Council with $1,500 to go towards their food and cultural festival, which is happening next week. Can I get a second from the floor? Second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, and then in addition tonight, we also met with the Little Grassy Literary Festival, those organizers for the event. This is a festival that will be happening in April, and they will be bringing in 6 speakers, and they primarily promote this to the English departments. They have like their undergraduate and graduate students attending, as well as the faculty and staff, but also is open to the greater community, and they also have a wonderful amount of community support. Last year, we were able to give them $1,250, but because of our own restrictions of funding this year, it is recommended at this time that we provide them with $1,000 towards their event. Any questions about that? Or all right, then I make a motion on the floor to provide that organization with $1,000 for the Little Grassy Literary Festival in April. Can I get a second? Great, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Okay.
Moving right along, we will move into officer reports. So I do have some things to report from over the break, going back to last semester, as well as some more recent things. First bit of from my report tonight is that Derek McDowell, representative of the law school, is going to be stepping down from the directorship for Council of Government Affairs that he has been serving in this year. So we'll be working to appoint a replacement. Reach out and let us know if you are interested in that. And as we go forward, Derek is going to help whoever is stepping into that role transition and continue on the work we have in that area. Going on, so our recordings of meetings from last year, so academic year 2017-2018, are on YouTube now. As well as all of the recorded meetings, actually all of our meetings, I guess, from this year so far, 18-19 academic year, are up on YouTube as well. We should get our GPSC website updated soon for the links, the agendas from the previous year's meetings, and continue to backlog on those as I can. But all of those recordings from the previous years are now videos up on YouTube as well as this year. We have the student trustee election for the next year, starting basically July 2019 until the end of June 2020. So the student trustee election for the next year is going to be starting up in the next couple of months. We have the packet from Student Affairs to review on the rules and conduct and procedures for that election that I'm going to be reviewing, but a key part of the student trustee election process is will require 3 graduate student members of the election committee that oversees that election, with 3 members that are nominated by undergraduate student government, and then there are a couple, I believe, members of that committee from the administration itself. So if you are interested in serving on that student trustee election, it's a very important spot for overseeing and managing that election of the student trustee. Remember, so the student trustee is someone from this campus that sits on the board of trustees that might have the vote in actual business that comes before the board of trustees of the university. So if you're interested in volunteering and serving on that election committee, please let us know. We can get you organized to do so. I also got word back from the Alumni Association Scholarship Committee that we're doing the evaluation of the scholarship applications that was submitted way back in October, I think that it was. And that committee has completed its review of applications. The determination of those applications, I haven't been contacted for them. It's a little weird because I'm on the committee itself. So I know what decided within the committee, but I haven't got a formal statement as far as communication from the committee itself. But I don't think it's out of line to say that I expect for GPSC to receive from that that scholarship review $1,500 to support our career development reimbursement awards. So in fact, we'll have enough money to support 10 additional career development awards at that $150 maximum amount. So we'll have some additional funds to use for our career development awards. Another announcement, Campus Community Affairs, that area with Rachel has at the program plan, which should be on the back of the agenda that you have for tonight, that we've approved. We're moving forward. Rachel will have a short discussion on where we're going with the next steps in that later on in the meeting. Also, Executive Director for Communications, Lacey, we're up and going in that area, and I'm excited for what Lacey is going to do on that. I got a small bit for the agenda tonight. If there was anything you wanted to bring up or anything, but we didn't really, I didn't know if we needed that time, but I put it on the agenda. So. Yeah, great. So we'll see later on. So coming up in the next month or two, I'm going to try and engage in some direct outreach with units for membership and the promotion of any number of things that we'll have going on, including our program schedule, the 15 to 5 thing, as well as recruiting membership to Graduate Professional Student Council, promoting the Graduate Professional Student Survey that we're going to do again this year at GPSC, if you remember last year, and really just promoting any number of things that we're doing in general. So there's two aspects of that, the council member affairs and then constituency affairs we discussed as far as some positions within GPSC. If you are interested in participating in what we will be developing for this direct engagement, reaching out to units, there is the opportunity to serve on the executive board in those capacities, those two sort of executive director positions. So as we're gearing up for that, if you're interested in those areas, do reach out. We'll be reaching out to a couple of people in those positions. More announcements. I just brought it up. Graduate Professional Student Survey for 2019 and ramping that up now. Just had a meeting earlier today about that effort. We should be getting going and scheduling the proctoring of that survey in about 20 days. As well as the reports from the survey in the previous year should be coming out late February to March. Two more items. So interim chancellor, we have a new interim chancellor that was appointed at the last Board of Trustees meeting, and Dr. John Dunn took over as interim chancellor in the beginning of January. Let's see, Board of Trustees appointed him and took over January 1st. I have a few bits of information about him. Interim Chancellor Dunn is actually returning to SIU Carbondale. If you haven't seen the press release, actually, I'll ask that question. Does anybody have, like, how familiar are you with the gentleman, Dr. Dunn has come in? Don't know how to read stuff? Yeah, I'll go through it a little bit then. So Dr. Dunn served at SIU Carbondale as the Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs from 2002 to 2006, and then as an interim chancellor 2006 to 2007. So actually, Dr. Dunn is returning even in the specific capacity as an interim chancellor to the campus, which is somewhat interesting. He left SIU to be the president of Western Michigan University, and then just retired from there last year. He's a native of Tiffanyville, and he is returning as the interim chancellor here. The contract was written for up until December 2021, with the expectation that we will likely have done a search, appointed a full-time interim chancellor in about a year and a half's time. There is a letter, a number of letters, a number of messages from the interim chancellor on the chancellor's website, the SIU website, the chancellor portion of it. The one statement that I printed out is the one that is to faculty and staff, and I think that one is a little bit more interesting than the one that is specifically to students. There's a number of interesting aspects of what he says in there. One aspect I thought that was worthy of some mention is please be assured that I will do my very best to represent you at the university. This means meeting with and being engaged with constituent groups, actively participating in university functions, doing my part to remind us all that SIU is personal. This means reaching out to one another and providing support and encouragement as we move forward. The idea that impersonal also means that some of our challenges with enrollment can be addressed by making personal commitments to take ownership of student retention and graduation rates. In general, there's been a number of statements and a number of comments that I've heard about interactions, conversations with the chancellor, that there is a serious emphasis in what has been done and said so far, being very student-centered, Chancellor, be very student focused. I reached out to Dr. Dunn to set up a meeting, and actually got a response the same day via email. And we are ongoing right now scheduling that meeting between Chancellor Dunn and our executive board. So I would say that right now we are somewhat encouraged by what we've seen and what we've heard. In addition to that, there is going to be another conversation series. This one specifically held with the new interim chancellor, Dr. Dunn, that's hosted by our student trustee, Brianna Lockett. The date on that, which is confirmed, the location is confirmed, is January 30th, 1 p.m. in Ballroom A. It's actually on this floor in the student center, just down the hall in Ballroom A. There will be one of the conversation series I hope you all are familiar with that our student trustee, Brianna Lockett, has been hosting, and this one will be with Chancellor Dunn. And like I said, our executive board is working to schedule a meeting with Dr. Dunn as well. And then the question, which I think is a rhetorical one for all practical purposes, is inviting the interim chancellor to come and actually address our council. I figured that we would have an interest in doing so, and that would be one of the items on the agenda of us in the executive board. Any concerns or oppositions to inviting the chancellor to come to our council meeting? And let's see, a few more minutes here. So the last little bit that I have for you as far as my report is some notes from the Board of Trustees meetings that occurred in December 12th and December 13th. Apart from the appointment of the interim chancellor as part of those meetings, I did want to bring up that no tuition and fee proposal for an increase was brought to the board, so mandatory fees, student fees, and tuition will remain the same going into the next academic year. Specifically the IT portion of the general student fee increase proposal that we heard, that is not going to take place. So all mandatory fees and tuition will remain the same in the next academic year. There was a academic reorganization update from the interim provost, Dr. Raju. It covered a number of areas explaining the overview of the academic reorganization. I thought some points that would be worth mentioning that were in that presentation with the idea of a timeline, and a timeline that is characterized by patience and thoughtful development. And the idea that, again, as that's been our understanding for months now, the idea that college restructuring will occur once all the school reorganization efforts are done. That the current status at this time, which was December 12th, was that 8 schools had faculty senate and graduate council approval for those R&Ds. 5 were out and 8 were in development. And the Illinois Board of Higher Education's guidance on our reorganization was that an agreement that reorganization falls under an IBHE review, and that the R&E process, the reasonable to moderate extension review of those proposals, was the appropriate one, that they did not constitute duty units of instruction, and that ultimately the role of the Board of Trustees, as indicated by the Illinois Board of Higher Education, was that it did require board authorization for the reorganization. The authorization needed to speak to the use of the reasonable to moderate extension process for this effort, and the authorization for the president to proceed with the approval and sending of those RMEs to the IPHE. In addition to that, on the 12th, which was the executive session, there was a couple of presentations from 2 different consulting firms. One was the Associated Governance Boards report. The other one was a law firm that I do not have a name on in this. General purpose of these consultants' reviews was to evaluate system governance and to examine the general system's well-being, function, and procedure, and policy recommendations that they might submit after that evaluation. Some of the interesting things that came back, the idea that there's a serious need for a system strategic plan and to evaluate the system mission. As it pertains to governance, it was rated 4. Need to unify an alignment between the system plan and the campus's plans to act on behalf of the system at the system level and the board level to get clarity as to why the system exists, what it's trying to do, the roles of the system officers, the roles of the campuses, and to engage in that evaluation quite seriously and quite literally. Essentially, it's sort of just a big question mark as to how well the system really understands what it's trying to do and how it's trying to accomplish things, and the problems that questions at the system level like that create when they roll down to campuses, either Edwardsville, Medical School, or Carbondale. Very interesting, there is a Board of Trustees retreat that is scheduled for, I believe it's February 1st. That's off the top of my head, that may be incorrect. That is going to actually take up these findings, essentially from the consultants' reviews. If you have any more questions on that, I'd be happy to elaborate as I can or follow up on them if needed. In the full board meeting on the 13th, the next day, they did pass the resolution, or item L, that gave the approval and communication of the R&D process and the president's ability to continue forward with that reorganization process as outlined by the IBAG, as well as presented to the board by the Carbondale campus. Interesting part of that resolution process was there was a great deal of concern over the specific language that was in that resolution for good merit. I have a copy of that resolution if you're more interested in it, and I can provide a copy of that resolution if you're interested in it. It's available on the website as well. But a key part of what it was that interim President Dr. Dorsey added a part of that resolution to try to calm some of the concern that there was with the language in that resolution. And what I think is most interesting about the parts that he added is I feel like for the first time with anything with reorganization, we have the actual criteria that determine whether or not a proposal for change is good or bad. Whereas before, why we were doing any particular reorganization or moving around the units or anything, it was kind of a moving target as far as why we were doing it. Sort of, well, to save money, but then not really. Or grow enrollment, but no, it's not necessarily about enrollment. Or it's we've just always had a moving target. So it sort of outlines 5 different parts. In Dr. Dorsey's own words, the resolution as it reads delegates me with a pretty substantial power. I suggest that the decisions I made on these individual R&Ds be guided by several principles. That is, 1, to what extent do these R&Ds benefit students and provide opportunities they did not otherwise have? 2, do they make best use of our resources? 3, do they create opportunities for faculty that did not exist previously? 4, do they foster and enhance SIU Carbondale as a research institution? 5, using as a guiding principle, do these R&Ds help spotlight our academic programs in support of our ongoing recruitment efforts? And so with that, I feel like we have a very clear, articulate, and definitive understanding of the criteria by which any proposal for reorganization, whether it be academic or non-academic, can be evaluated. That is where my report ends. Hopefully I haven't done miserable on time. If there are any questions, I'll do what I can to respond. Seeing no questions, I will for Diane.
Okay, I just wanted to kind of touch base on where we are at with the different things that fall under the faculty. So for the career development reimbursement, as far as the amount that has been allocated so far, you'll notice if you go onto the GPSC webpage that we have actually met our max of what we got budgeted for the academic year at the beginning of the year, which was $10,000. As Clay noted, we are expecting another $1,500 from the Alumni Association, bringing us to the allocated budget of $11,500. What has been requested and allocated based on what was received prior to going into break, so December 15th, is $10,725. So the remaining then, and this is including the additional 1,500 of fees, $775. But note that this is not taking into account the balancing of taxes that are due for our international students. And so something that has been voted on for the past past 3 years, serving on that is that for those international students who are asking for a request of $150 to $75, rather than what happens with them is that based on their the nation that they're coming from, they get taxed different things. And so technically that person would only receive like $80 or whatever it might be. And so we have decided to balance out that cost so that they get what they requested. And so that was the decision that we made. So there's still going to be a balance that is going towards supporting the taxes of those international students. We had a total of 36 international students apply, with a total amount provided to international students being 5,100. So half of what we had originally budgeted. And so we were just waiting for the tax offices to give us that balance. And then what I will prioritize is making sure that we balance out that remaining tax. And then we are still taking applications, and depending on any sort of additional funding that we release, because we do have still some funds that we put into our reserve. So we have to evaluate where we are and how much we can actually give towards our reserve, and also any additional fundraising that we might have would then go to any new applications received in the spring. But right now on our Facebook, on our webpage, it says we've allocated our funds. Please continue providing us your applications. We will review these based on date received, and note we cannot guarantee funding at this time. So if you still are going to an event, if you have registered for that event, turn in the application. There's a good chance we'll still be able to support you, especially if you do it early. And so make sure you tell those in your department who have questions about that, that they can still submit. It just doesn't mean they're guaranteed. And then as far as event funding goes, we, as counting in the two that we voted on today, as of now, we've allocated $3,900, which means that we have a remaining of $2,700. Looking at some of the requests that we've had this past spring, that number is certainly below what I expect people coming in will be requesting. And so, so if you are someone who often requests funds in the spring next year, you're turning in your applications early. We're also going to be doing some additional fundraising, trying to bring in some extra money and looking at what we have in the reserves that can be distributed towards event funding. And so, so that's what's remaining. We do have some applications that we already have received, but we'll be reviewing 2 weeks from now when we go into our next GPSC evaluation. As far as research awards go, we put a smaller amount towards that, but I would like to review the balance of everything to see what we can give. I'll also be working with the foundation to see if we can do some fundraising at the Day of Giving, which happens on March 6th, as well as some other fundraising opportunities that will go and distribute first the research award to event funding and then to the CEPA. If that makes sense. So, moral of the story, we don't got that much money. So if you want some of that money, make sure that you're getting in things early so we can take into consideration. Oh, and then as we move forward, I don't need anyone right now, but as we determine what we'd like to do for this year's research award, I often will request research award reviewers. We have some people in the room who participated in past years. It's kind of fun, it's kind of interesting looking over and seeing the vast nature of research that exists on this campus, as well as the School of Medicine, and reviewing those. That's a fun little Saturday afternoon with bagels and fun conversations about research. And so as that approaches, I'll make sure to identify if anyone might be interested in participating as a reviewer. But that is that, I believe.
Questions? Discussion? Seeing none?
I don't have much of a report because we did not meet for break. So our first, the executive committee meeting is this Thursday, and so I'll have more to tell you next meeting. But I did want to add for the student trustee election, I chaired that last year, and so if you are interested in that, I can tell you how that works. And it's not very time consuming, so if you are interested in it and you think, well, maybe I don't have enough time, you probably do, unless there's some crazy problems that didn't occur last year. But it was really cool because you get to negotiate a lot, kind of whether things fall into the rules or not. Breon pushed things a little bit a couple times.
Administration should not have a voice in it.
But so if you have any questions on anything,
Oh. Oh, it hurt me.
push the limit.
Sorry, I don't have that question. I think you were talking about the students' trustee election. Is that right? So I remember from last year, I suggested that we could have like another kind of training for people who are joining the for the first time. That would help them, and that was exactly my new member needs. So I thought I was brought to the board, but I wanted more training, more ideas, more skills to work effectively. So I would suggest that if we can also after that again, that could be like either you do it, you would like me, it depends on the time, on the availability, or the people who are in charge of that, they can provide any kind of training that welcome anyone who is joining the committee and make work like go more effective. That's at least my opinion.
There you go. All right, seeing nothing else, move on to reports from the executive directors. The council government affairs, Derek is not here. I see Ms. Finn on there. So, in his absence, we'll move on to Director of Campus Community Affairs.
So, can everybody hear me okay from over here? You want me to move? Okay.
I mean, it might be hard for some people on the side. So you might want to stand up, or you might want to put here so.
So, hi, again. So last semester, I asked for input from you all about the 15 and 5 plan, so 15 different additional programs across 5 different categories. I didn't receive a whole lot much, both between the executive board and myself. We come up with the following things on the backside of your agenda. I'd like to review each of the different programs, just in case of ideas and some of the expectations from them. And now, after learning that Diane, you said you are interested, you guys are already planning to do something with the SMU Foundation for the Living. So that means that 7 of the 15 are already somehow in some way, shape, or form either finished or already committed to. So I'll actually be asking for volunteers tonight if you're interested. If you can fit into your schedule, hopefully won't be too much of a burden. I don't want to do all 8 programs, but I'll definitely be a solid resource for those of you who choose to volunteer. You don't have to do it all alone. You can pull together different people, and I'll be there to sort of serve as like the oversight for all of it, make sure it runs smoothly. So the first one, the award and recognition ceremony. So that's just research awards, and we're going to be adding on teaching honors and service awards. It's a ceremony that happens at the end of the year, and usually the key allocation board takes care of that. So I have Diana sitting as the head right now. So we're assuming that there would be an ad hoc committee to take on a handful of just general tasks like reviewing and doing the selection of the research and service awards, selecting the numbers and the titles of the additional service and teaching honors awards. And then also as a collaboration, we would like to solicit undergraduate student government to submit nominations and also help select some of those teaching honors for different GAs and TAs across whatever categories you come up with. So I guess if you serve on FAB or you're interested in helping out FAB in this regard, contact Diana. And then for the first research, the research award presentations, that will also fall in the FABs because it'll be taking place during the awards and recognition ceremony. So I'll be hopefully having people contact previous research award winners to identify anybody who's available to present at this year's award and recognition ceremony. So also taken on by FAB. Both of those will occur in late April or early May, so there's a fun while to prepare for all of it. So if interested, contact Diana. The second research category will be a graduate professional student survey keynote presentation, which Clay is sort of the head for. He's been in charge of it this whole time. So he would be doing a presentation and a document release, probably during a GPSC meeting, if that's how that works out.
Yeah.
If you're interested. And timeline for that, you said maybe March?
Yeah,
Maybe
probably more March.
So that you guys can just look forward to. Nobody needs to do anything for. So the panels and the workshops are where I'm gonna need people to maybe sort of pull together volunteers to make sort of informal subcommittees. So just to make sure we're on the same page, panel discussions are going to constitute a group of individuals with some sort of authority over the given subject. Subject matter to provide their background and also have like a semi-informal discussion between the panel and have a mediator to help have an audience ask questions or come up with a backup list of questions in case and with a real role and activity just to better inform the audience and allow their own participation in whatever you have to be talking about. So we have 3 of those panels, one on the SAU reorganization for 2019 going forward. So that would hopefully entail getting some more information on the process and expected progress of this now Board of Trustees resolution on how the reorganization moves forward. We'd like that to take place in February if it's possible to get it scheduled that quickly. And we're hoping for 1 to 3 coordinators who can really interested in the reorganization and sort of hounding some of the upper level administrators and give them all time for that. Just all it would really entail, besides the mediator coming up with some backup questions. So, is anybody interested in the reorg or know anybody interested in the reorg that wants to help out? Jordan, that's pretty good. Yeah, I feel like a better amount of them and see them in meetings. Then they're not going to assist with being up to the lead, but I'll contact for emailing or being there on the day of the event. Sort of make sure. But, well, if not, I'll be sending out an email after this meeting. I'm happy to help Jordan. Yeah. I mean, I'll be sending out emails just to kind of keep up to date with all of this and see if anybody changes their mind. We also will have a panel discussion on mentorship. So trying to discuss the different perceptions and expectations from a graduate student perception, and also defining what mentorship is and how it's different from advisement, and how it's different from supervision and how it's different between colleagues and like teacher and faculty relations. So eventually happening in March. Once again, 1 to 3 coordinators will have to identify who you want to serve on the panel and get them to be in a particular place at a particular time. So anybody interested in mentorship? Anybody like to help these here? Is anybody interested in long contact with? Or anybody that has any people they'd like to nominate to serve on any of these panels?
Lacey, I'll help you too. I actually just started here in the mentorship committee, and so there's a lot of administrators who are on that might be able to come in that role and talk about how they use
like it doesn't use me, but anyway, else is like this and that be just on is already participating in something. I'll definitely be filling in any gaps along the way. And then the third panel discussion will be students and stakeholders. So to try to have a discussion on how students do and should factor into how things are happening at this university, what's happening, and why. Try to better meet the needs and the desires of both students. So that's pretty general. There aren't any very specific that we're looking for with that. Is stakeholders working on any particular faculty or upper level administration or any artists? So is there any outside community group that would have something interesting to say and we would like to help coordinate with people?
So
And then,
I was texting. What'd you need?
Community conversations.
What you need? Campus
You're not
cover.
even listening to me.
I was texting. I'm honest. Very much honest.
Yeah, it sounds like this is, the description on this one sounds up your alley, just saying. Did you listen to the description, Brian Lockett?
No, I did not.
Okay, all right. Rachel, she'll repeat herself, I'll repeat it. So we're looking at someone who can gather stakeholders. That's how you see stakeholders. As our student trustee, I imagine you know several of the different type of representing bodies on this campus and bring them collectively together.
Oh, I can definitely
Have
help
more
with that.
dialogue.
Definitely.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Thought
No
so.
problem. I don't mind doing that at all. Yes.
Clay will help you. Romance continues.
Love you, Clay.
Romance continues.
Well, those are three panel discussions. A couple of them can, well, have panel discussions. A couple of workshops can be made as part of the GPSC. So, three panel discussions. Is somebody leading some of them. If you have any interest in them, just send me an email. Send GPSC an email.
Wedge in one comment with this as well. Did you go back to your departments, your units, speak with your other students in the program, your peers, your colleagues? If there's somebody that you think might be interested in getting involved in one of these particular areas, they have some interest or specialty or whatever it may be, you can bring it up with them as well. They can reach out to Rachel and express that interest, and we can get them connected with one of these opportunities, whether it's a panel, whether it's a workshop, any of those opportunities. So that's also something I would say can't be done in this meeting, but go back to those that you represent. Yes.
And also, this is a really good opportunity as graduate students who are eventually going to be looking for jobs, and you're going to need to have service to prove that you can do service at this future job. This is a really good way for you all to build your CVs, not just by being members of GPSC, but also participating in doing shit. So I highly suggest, just for the sake of building your CV and making yourself a more competitive candidate on the job force.
This is a solid chance to have a really good reason to test for a lot of really important people. So even just to make those personal contacts.
And I was going to say too, I know for me, there's certain things that we already do well within my department. And last year kind of opened that up to graduate students. So for example, the chair of our department talks about how to create a CV, how to get on the job market, and things like that. And so it was really for the individuals who didn't come and really allow them to really improve what their CV looked like, how the language occurred on that. And so those little workshops, things like that, we host, we certainly open those up to more people if the interest is there. So if you host these type of things that are just about pedagogy, about proving yourselves as professionals, whether it's going to conferences, any of those things that are already occurring within your department, why reinvent the wheel? Just open it up and to more people to kind of take part in. That's what I would say as well.
One last thing, and now I want to get the floor back to Rachel here, is it's also an opportunity to learn something. Helping organize the event, put on the event, and then being be a part of that. Is an opportunity to learn something about an area that you may be interested in learning more about or expanding what you already know. And I think the workshops are great. For that kind of experience.
The workshops are next is for those. So just make sure on the same page again, workshop, so it would constitute having a short presentation led by some sort of somebody, whether it's you as the coordinator or somebody that you bring in to help provide materials. And then some sort of interactive or participatory activity that centers around like the take home that you want to leave with your workshop attendees. So the first one is maximizing conference attendance. So the free materials, such as available conference attendance resources here from the university, different guidelines for participating in committees or participating in working groups and networking do's and don'ts. So if anybody has a particular interest in conference attendance or has a large amount of experience in conference attendance, or knows anybody that they would like to have lead the workshop and coordinate having that other workshops. Anybody interested?
Question.
Yeah.
So you're only taking, did you take the grad school one, or is that maximizing conference attendance wrapped up in that? Volunteers.
Can you clarify the question?
I would like to volunteer to help. I can't take on or the scope of it, but to help with the grad school life stability.
Okay, yeah, we just haven't made it to that one yet. Definitely. I was just running down the list. I don't know if that's in the same order.
Thank you.
Yeah, so maximizing conference attendance.
I'm not interested in running it, but doesn't philosophy post, don't you guys post a conference at SIU? So maybe we could teach other departments on how to do
There's,
that.
are you talking about building bridges?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I can speak to the people in the philosophy department who have done building bridges before and see if that's something they might be able to.
That would be really helpful. Yeah. If I could get your contact information.
Sure.
after this.
If we're just throwing out volunteers, I was gonna say, I know the law school has a lot of RSOs that are very successfully run. Probably more so than the overall graduate school as far as like the functionality, really targeting towards the audience, getting after messages, bringing in speakers and like creating workshops and internal things for growth. So that might be a category. I mean, I think that you all do that really well as far as RSOs go. So thinking that that's sort of how to form them, how to run them well, how to promote them, how to fundraise and get people to your events. It might be something that you all consider since you have some pretty great volunteers.
That one is next.
I mean, that's not required. I'm just throwing that out there. Toss of the ball.
So yeah, so just some of the expectations for putting on a workshop is just to brainstorm some of the basic program materials and bring sort of, I mean, you don't have to bring in any additional resources if you don't want to, but if those help, then great. And then just reserving a time and space if you have guest lectures and they show up. So hopefully not too much to ask of anybody. There are some workshops that I just like about maybe somewhere up the law school's alley. So just like a how-to on forming, running, putting on events, getting funding. We had planned to contact the Office of Student Engagement just to get one of their admins that come down and talk about everything on the business end, and then maybe recruiting an RSO or two, now maybe from law, that do function well and do have high attendance and do meet the goals that they set out to meet at the beginning of the year. There's a very good amount of RSOs that apparently keep them necessary to make that work. Is there anybody that is interested in some RSOs, interested in contacting RSOs to see if they want to contact me directly? Perfect. So I'll work with Jordan a little bit, but maybe I'll reach out to some of the law students to see if you know of any RSOs that could help out. Graduate school life balance. So that workshop is going to be a collaboration with the graduate school, so it's already planned. I don't have any information on the program materials themselves, but the graduate school will be, for their professional development series, will be providing a life balance workshop on Wednesday, April 17th, in the Student Services Building, from 1:50 to 1 to 3 p.m. So I don't know if you're still interested. We would just be asking for a couple of volunteers to bring forward with Dean Wallace to talk about some different programming materials, maybe bring an interactive activity to the workshop.
Did you say date ever for moving?
Wednesday, April 17th, from 1 to 3.
I'm in.
Super cool.
I'll take it.
Last lady.
Anybody that maybe hasn't, I mean,
Brianna's hands up.
Rich, you got me. You can't see my hand, but it's up. Still up.
I got your
You up?
So that one's probably gonna be one along because
Are you in?
I'm sorry, I just want to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll take on the RSO thing.
Yeah.
Law, all of us.
Law.
Yeah.
Hey, hey.
I mean, these things hopefully won't be too much work, and I think it'll be a lot of fun experiences. Lots of more information and some talk, hopefully. So that's graduate school life balance. With the graduate school, or graduate students, do live here, so hopefully it will be fun. Great. Yeah.
Rich, in regards to that grade school, is there a possibility to reach out to alumni as well?
Yeah, so I don't know anything about the program material. That's what policy, figure out what they plan to do, and she seemed over the moon positive that the chance to collaborate on it, so she's probably interested in probably working to incorporate whatever programs material you would like to see take place. Yeah. Last workshop, we're almost done. I'm so sorry. This is taking so long. Academic and non-academic grievance workshop. So, how about grievances? What steps? What are the steps? Who can help? How to help? This is a long review of the process. And GAU, we're probably bringing in a guest speaker. Just to do like a little overview and answer questions. I want to volunteer or help. Great, that'd be perfect. Okay, you're currently right after this. Yeah. So Diana,
Yeah. We'll have a GAU come in, and that's who, as a graduate assistant at the university, who you would file grievances with. We can talk about that process, but also, my colleague and I, Anna, we just went to a grievance training, and that also has information that if you work in any environment, if you move on to become a faculty member or whatever, how does that dialogue also occur? When is something movable towards grievance?
that would be really great. Hopefully have people, actually hopefully that one will take place here.
Yeah, I can have you during the meeting very quickly.
Great. That's it for workshops. Speed panels, 2 research events, one award and recognition ceremony, also with the collaboration. Did the food drive, did the final loop program. USG nominations will take part in collaboration with the awards and recognition ceremony and the research award presentation. That's all launched in July. SAU Foundation Day of Giving, collaboration participation with that. Now also the allocation board thing, so if you're interested in reaching out to the foundation, figuring out how we can potentially get some more funds, talk to them, doing that with that, which is great. And all that's left is the Center for International Students. We'd like to review and hopefully update the orientation materials plans. I've been told that they could do some updating, so if anybody is interested, that would just be putting together a small ad hoc committee, meeting couple times to review materials and maybe any suggested updates by the end of the semester. That's sort of just a super informal deadline. Interested. Right.
Can you explain more about what material?
I don't know.
Should we, this is a suggestion, should we reach out to the International Students Society, you know, like their council, and see if they maybe have suggestions for what they would want as international students on the. I mean, we can certainly make that happen, and maybe also get communications to older offices and see if they also are planning anything or have like something in the works.
Would anybody like to contact them and see if what and if anything you could update? Last one, and then we'll stop talking.
I won't.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be nothing, I don't know, but if you come up with that, if you know where this one stems from at all, it just, it was an idea that we could help you.
Yeah, I think it's more of that, just orientation.
Yeah.
Relates to international students. The angle of that is some of the aspects of tax. All the finer points, challenges.
All the help is needed, but maybe it's not, so just to reach out and maybe connect for future programming next year and, so sorry, that took a while. So just a rundown, hopefully a workshop with panel is the academic, non-academic workshop, and SAUP or panel in February. An RSO workshop, maximizing conference attendance workshop, and mentorship and discussion in March. Grad school life balance workshop, SAU stakeholders panel, in April, maybe GPSC presentation that doesn't in March. And then the award recognition ceremony will take place end of April, early May, and then the collaboration small ones. Hopefully we'll have some sort of resolution by the end of the semester. That's the plan. 15 in one semester. Now it's supposed to go.
Happy
Gonna
birthday.
happen.
Thanks, Rachel.
Done talking. I'll grab.
My name BRI.
And so there will be an email as a follow-up to all of those things.
For sure.
We'll receive, if you do have any questions or follow-up or anything in relation to that program plan, if you don't have Rachel's email directly, you can send an email to GPSC's address or one of the officers directly. We'll make sure that Rachel gets that. Or ask it in a meeting.
Hopefully this won't ever happen this way again, that there will be a plan coming into the full academic year, and we don't do this many programs all at once. This is a little crazy, but I think it can happen. So I'm done.
Good. All right. Last up from the directors.
Hi. Okay, so we're dealing with one issue, and it's the lack of under-representation of some departments. So I'm slowly starting to, with the help of Clay, reaching out to departments that don't have representation here. So that's one task we're accomplishing this year. But another one is if you are graduating or leaving Carbondale or not going to be in GPSC next year, come chat with me afterwards so that we can make sure that representation from your department is here in place for next year. And you know, just because you leave it doesn't mean that your department doesn't have someone in place to replace you. So if you are leaving next year, not going to be here in August, come chat with me. The other thing is, at the end of this meeting, as we always do, we'll say announcements that we want to share. If you could also chat with me about that, I can then post the announcements on Twitter just to like get them out there and share them. Those are my two things. Thank you.
Any questions on that, Lacey?
Let's talk about Boise.
All right, continue moving on. Committee reports. I haven't noticed for any additional committee reports. I've got a couple that I'm going to make rather quick. They're not all that involved. But does anyone have any reports from the committee that you don't have listed on the agenda that you wish to share at all here? No one. All right, so the two that I have committee reports from is for the Higher Learning Commission Steering Committee and Chancellor's Planning and Budget Advisory Committee. Just some quick notes on the steering committee. Essentially, it was sort of an overview briefing meeting for where the status is of all subcommittees that are handling specific criterion of the Higher Learning Commission's reaccreditation process. We just went through and essentially heard presentations from the leadership of each subcommittee on essentially where they are and specifically what they need from others to complete their subcommittee reports. Basically, different bits of incomplete as well as some promotion for the dissemination efforts that they'll have for the review of the draft and the solicitation of some feedback. This is all in the context of the timeline being that this past December, the draft for that initial argument was due. In February, there's going to be some meetings and review of that draft, sort of getting the notes put together. And then from March this year to December at the end of this year, there will be presentations around the campus and the community for feedback on what is sort of that revised draft of the reaccreditation argument. Fall 2019, there's going to be the official campus community feedback mechanism that is created. For ultimately February 2020, there's the submission of the final reaccreditation document, and then February 2020, the official site visit from the HLC. And then, of course, like all things accreditation, the target focuses on continuous improvement. Any questions with HLC stuff? That's pretty much all I have for that specific report.
Is everybody that is on the subcommittee to the meeting, or is there a subcommittee that hasn't met? Who's for the surveillance? Right, so you're good. Yeah, good about that. Gotcha.
Kind of mine have met, but I don't remember what I kind of for.
Gotcha.
And I haven't seen them.
Yeah.
I do follow up, making sure people are meeting, or there's some committees that are just kind of dense. Yeah.
Anything further on that item? All right, and then a little bit of notes from the Planning Budget Advisory Committee. We had an overview of some expectations, some ideas about what the Illinois appropriations might look like, how our Illinois appropriations and then income fund just looked like from FY14 to FY19. I had a handout for that we can actually do an overview for. I didn't know if there was any interest in doing that. It does definitely paint a pretty good financial picture of where the campus is. I think I can also just email that to
I was
everyone.
just gonna say that.
I did get the approval to share that. It does give a pretty good understanding of a number of things going on for the university, mostly related to the current debts that the university is paying back. It's a lot of context as far as what's going on in campus. We discussed, like most of the meetings that I was going to, the idea that there was going to be tuition or fee increase. And so the big item for that meeting was that Jessica DeHangers, the new Associate Chancellor for Enrollment Management, came to that meeting and gave us an overview of what's going on, essentially described the charge that she received to focus on recruitment, enrollment, and retention. So the strategies for that execution is essentially her office is working on new incoming undergrads, and the provost office is working on retention and persistence efforts. Some discussion over the idea of guiding her efforts on recruiting, being the notion of what our brand is in 2020. There's a survey of stakeholders to learn what they already think SIU is, Carbondale campus. A pretty substantial analysis, evaluation of our admission practices and procedures, with some changes already being implemented to increase basically people just completing applications that are already started. A pretty interesting one that it was good to hear of. This is something that I know has been brought up in undergraduate student government service, as well as some return of the provisional admissions program that existed on campus before, that it's kind of been suspended or done in a piecemeal fashion, and actually bringing back some provisional admissions to students for undergraduate programs. And a mention of the notion of the significance of retention and persistence that's sort of equal to recruitment. Associate Chancellor Denny was sort of talking about the idea that she's getting a lot of persons reaching out, talking to her about what they can do to support recruitment efforts, and a lot of the time she finds herself encouraging not just consider recruitment, but also to really take a targeted effort on focusing on how they can make connections with the students that are already here to engage in retention and persistence of our current students, and focus on that, because even that will have a major impact on those who are already here, as well as the recruitment of future students. For that planning and budget, I'll just follow up with an email for that budget snapshot for the last 5 fiscal years to everyone. And if you have any questions, seeing none, we'll move to second to last item here. Open floor, good to the order. Anything, announcements or questions, concerns? Yeah.
So I have an email and I have this in an attachment which will also be sent out. That I just want to let you know, I can't remember who sent this to you. It was some administrative, not some of the grad school, but they're having grads in the grotto. So this is a event that is a networking event that's going to be happening at the grotto on Wednesday, January 30th from 8 p.m. to midnight. They're inviting all graduate students and professional students to come out for a night of socializing and networking. They have negotiated specials, which include appetizers and $5 jumbo rails. So, if you're interested in mingling for the graduate students, head on to the grotto on Wednesday, January 30th from 8 to midnight. You still work there? Awesome. Awesome. So if you're interested in that, I will send that out, but put it on your calendar.
I'm sorry?
So I can look it up in my email that I totally forgot. I mean, it's a like office of something. But I don't know what the something is. But it's an official. It's not a student group. It's like the office of engagement or office of something. But it's who's holding it. I forgot to write it down.
Anything else? How's everything going? Super.
All right.
I'm excited for this. Well,
I guess don't forget, I mean, like, stay tuned for some different events that are coming out. Now that we have our individual campus communications, we encourage you, if you haven't joined our Facebook page yet, come onto our Facebook page. And that's a place that we can start promoting graduate and professional student events that are happening across campus. And just kind of keep you up to date on some other things that are happening that don't have to do with socializing or some of the different academic programs and events that we have. So how many of you have liked our Facebook page? I encourage you, if you're not a Facebook person, that's fine. You can follow us on Twitter now, is that right?
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's just the group.
yeah, we don't.
I'm not a millennial, I'm a Gen Xer, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, no,
Did you need me to be
I
back
have
there?
no clue this window.
it's a free.
So I can help you with this one since
It's not a pay, and
Tell me about
those that have administrative
but this wouldn't be with my name and every other student, so usually they get those two. Yeah.
I see only
You tell me.
anticipation, so I would entertain.
Motion to
Or
adjourn.
we can get the chance to be there.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
I was asking you about this
Dean
today.
Wallace. So, the administration.
What?
People in administration. Okay.
If there's anybody who would.
Oh, don't forget, if you haven't signed in yet, to sign in. I will be.
Yeah. Would you hate if I
You
helped?
have that, handout on that,